Cameras, one for the audience and one for the speaker, and then somebody with the microphone moving the, for whoever asks. And this actually helps the people, that couldn't make it to Debian to DebConf to actually follow the talk. And usually they quite appreciate it.
Yeah. So, yeah. And the video team provide training, so there's no requirement at all to have video experience or camera experience, anything like that. You can just say it's something that sounds fun to do. And you also get a special yellow t-shirt.
Yes, yellow. Can we talk about that?
There's a question in the audience, or in the participants rather, over here. Or, yeah. Or intervention from someone. Microphone, please. I think right. It's not really necessary for this session necessarily, but let's get into the habit of using the microphone correctly.
Yeah, hi. My name is Oliver. Right, so this is more of an inquiry about, not specifically video, but I kind of interested in photography, stills, and while I see the hard efforts of the video team, I'm not sure, is there really like photo policy?
So maybe if we hand the microphone to the person sitting at the front of the room.
Yeah, I'm Igars, basically the photo team.
Oh, but I think you can probably take more members?
Exactly, yeah. I've been running around and taking pictures of everything, and so most of the time I end up missing most of the talks. So if somebody else would take up some of the slack and have more pictures taken, that would improve the coverage definitely and reduce the stress.
Can I have a question? How do you plan to publish the photos and so forth?
Well, yeah, the photos are basically from the previous day already published in my Google Plus stream, and I'm tweeting them and posting to IRC and stuff like that, and they'll be promoted through more official channels later on as well, especially when they're finished for all of that. But, yeah. As far how to cooperate explicitly with the other photographers taking pictures. That specific point has not been worked upon yet before, so yeah, that's a very open area of coordination now.
Have you been involved as a photographer of DebConf for several editions of DebConf, or?
All the ones that I've been to.
Which is how many years, approximately?
Since Oslo?
Yeah.
I think that's DebConf 4.
Oslo was 2003.
3? Oh, jeez. So yeah, for a long time. But yeah, there's plenty of moments to take, and not enough eyes to see them, and not enough cameras to take them. Maybe it's not the key focus of the conference, but it helps for people outside the conference to see what's happening where the cameras don't have the coverage, the video cameras don't have the coverage, and also see some more details, some more insights as well.
So you mentioned you've been involved or attending some DebConf. Have there been differences in the photography aspects, so to speak? Or have you? You mentioned you were more or less the only photographer here, right? At this DebConf is kind of. Are you used to this, or have it just give a little historic perspective, basically?
Well, back to the topic of this, of encouraging volunteers. When I started and I came to Debian, came to DebConf, I'm not a great coder. Let's just say it like that. I'm much better at taking photos, and what I try to focus on at DebConf is try to provide as best photo coverage so that the rest of the participants don't feel the need to bring their cameras and take pictures, so that they can focus more on the coding. And I feel that by this way I can provide more overall code impact than by coding myself. And so that's why I became involved. So one of the ways that people can get involved and volunteer for DebConf as well is to see what people in DebConf that would like to be coding, what are they doing instead of coding, and maybe you can help them reduce that non-productive time and help with that. I found the photography niche, maybe there is some other things that are not covered, and maybe somebody else can find something else.
Yeah, so I mean, most of the volunteer jobs during DebConf are non-technical ones. There are, in fact, some technical things that need help as well. If you are sitting in this room but really looking for a new technical project, then there are things like helping with the improving the conference management system, where there's actually been some coding done during this week to fix a couple of things even when they were noticed during DebConf. But most of the roles are non-technical things. I mean, other things you can see, again, if you walk around the conference, you'll see people doing different things, like, for example, the front desk. At the moment, the front desk actually seems to have already found a lot of volunteers by recruiting people as they arrived. So I don't know if they heavily need people or not, but certainly that's something that some people may be interested in if they're more. He wants to say something.
Just
or
that's ready to come in and give 2-3 minutes.
Oh yeah. Great. There are lots of things where another point about the volunteering during DebConf is just that a lot of times you can spot something needs done, or in fact some local team person may just be looking for someone to help do something boring like carry some stuff around. And obviously most people are kind of willing to do that, but again, it's good if there's some people who are really actively kind of looking out for little instances where they can help and just make sure everything works smoothly. I think there will still be some extra volunteers possibly wanted for things like helping get people to the right place on the day trip, this kind of thing as well.
And the cheese and wine party as well.
Yeah, the cheese and wine party should I expect still needs volunteers. That's another important event in the DebConf calendar. Can we pass the microphone over here then to hear something about front desk work?
So front desk is a very easy place to volunteer. We usually have one person who has access to the internal system where you have to tick off that people have registered, but the main thing we need help with is just pulling out the right t-shirt size, pulling up the person's badge. We've kind of got an assembly line going for that. You also get people wandering up just looking for help, like where do I find the room for this session, or what's coming up on the schedule. So we have like a printed piece there. So a lot of it, the rest of it's just kind of pointing people in the right direction. That's pretty much it.
So out of the people, well, if anyone want to ask a question back about that, or are you kind of happy?
How did you get involved with front desk?
Maybe you can repeat the question as well on the microphone.
He's asking, how did I get involved in front desk? I'm actually one of the local organizers for this year, so that's why I'm helping out. But there's other folks who just wandered up and started volunteering.
So I think we can probably let you get back if you want. But out of the people in this room, are there people who as the kind of in theoretical purpose of this session should be, are genuinely looking for something to do? Or are people too scared to raise their hand to admit that? I see some new faces to me, but I don't know whether you're just using the room as somewhere convenient to IRC from, or whether you actually would like to find some volunteer thing to do. If there's anyone in particular, then we can probably find you something, that's all. But if you prefer to lurk, that's also fine. Is anyone raising their hand? Apparently not. So for the other people, since I see quite a lot of people in the room who I think actually have been around in DebConf and in Debian for some time, while leaving open the option for anyone to jump up and say, I really need to find something to fill my time on Tuesday afternoon, or whatever it happens to be, I was going to say a little bit about the fact that some of the people in the room I know are, again, long-term DebConf participants and may have helped to lesser or greater degrees at different individual DebConfs. But as well as helping at the DebConfs, we are also always looking for people to get involved more with the longer-term year-to-year DebConf processes. Although clearly a lot of the work needs to be done by people who are local to actually be able to go and speak face-to-face with venue managers or this kind of thing. There's a lot of stuff in DebConf that happens that makes the conference a success when it happens, but is done in advance remotely. Can you tell me when it's big enough to actually read anything? I don't know how bad or good people's eyesight is that legible? Okay. So I mean, this is a page in the DebConf wiki with the imaginative title of Jobs. And this just has a load of different ways people can help on different things. Again, some of these are listed as things that are better done locally, although even within those areas, it's actually good if people who've got longer-term DebConf experience also get involved to give advice and help do things. That's things like the venue arrangements, helping people arrange get travel information, helping people get visas if they're coming to some country that requires it. There's a lot of things actually where we really don't have enough volunteers at the moment for some of these boring tasks. I say boring, but I'm sure they are very, very interesting if you can approach them in the right manner. So Martin was saying that he's been doing, for example, some of the kind of accounting for DebConf, and that's the kind of thing where it's really vital to have it happen, but it's hard often out of the set of people who are just coming to a DebConf say, it's hard to find people who have the right experience and the right and are willing to actually spend time to do that, even though clearly it's completely vital that we have a good set of accounts to show where the money's actually gone at the end of the conference. The same, I don't think actually this year we managed to get a real volunteer to do kind of specifically to do inventory tracking, for example. That just means keeping track of all the equipment that we put into the building, lots of which is lent from individual people or comes from some standard Debian equipment used from year to year. That's an example. It's really good to have. Some years we've had someone who focused on that and made sure everything was labeled and listed and documented, and then at the end of the conference it's then very easy to get it all back to the right place. In years when that doesn't happen, you suddenly find that 3 years later you're still trying to get the power strip back to someone or whatever it happens to be. Conference volunteers stuff is what I was talking about to start with, but again, at the moment we kind of don't have enough people. Well, we tend to get people to do the individual jobs. The task of coordinating those people tends just to fall back on the local team people. So here it's kind of falls back on maybe Steve and Patty, but they obviously actually have a lot of other things that they need to think about during the conference period. So again, if we have anyone who's interested in just helping to coordinate other volunteers, that's also something that we could really do with more help on. This year we don't have a specific Debian Day or Open Day from the conference, but again, in some years someone has taken that of saying, well, how can we really try to interact with the local community in the place where we're holding the conference? And maybe have a day where the talks that are scheduled that day are more ones that are more understandable from people from outside the project, more of general interest to people interested in free software. But again, it's something that it kind of, when it's happened in the past, it's mostly fallen back on the local team people to do it, but they have so many other priorities in the period leading up to DebConf that if we're going to have it, it's something that could really do with someone who wants to push that from year to year. Maybe even if they're remote. The day trip and conference dinner tend to be actually something that's quite fun for the locals to organize, but they still always need help to actually make the practicalities work. And again, just someone who's willing to, equally in the period leading up to the conference, it's good to have someone who's interested in those topics and can make suggestions, do research, check prices, whatever is needed. Then a lot of the other areas of DebConf organization, you don't even need to have any particular there doesn't need to be any particular local work done, but it's something that needs to happen. And again, these are the kind of things where it really is a big help if we can get people who want to help in these areas and push them, again, to relieve the pressure from the local organizers a bit. So one of the biggest areas there, again, I don't know if anyone in this here who's not already helping with it, has experience in the area, but you may have noticed that DebConf doesn't have a compulsory registration fee, that we pay for food and accommodation for a lot of participants, that we pay travel for some number of participants. And obviously to make that possible, we need to do a lot of fundraising. Again, in Debian in general, most people are not experts in fundraising. A lot of people find it something that's kind of scary or doesn't sound at all interesting to do, because it's basically hassling people about giving you money, which is not really is a productive thing to do, but not the most relaxing way to spend your time. But again, we're always, every year we're short on people to help in that area. And I'm sure I don't know about people in this room, but I'm sure maybe you know someone else in Debian or someone else at DebConf who you think would have an aptitude for that and could help out there. Again, treasury, accounting, so on, we have some people who do a little bit, but we could do with a lot more help there. I think more hands would be useful. Again, another area, most people in DebConf are not at all expert on dealing with media things. We could do with, if you have experience at doing things with media, or as in dealing with press, or if you know someone else who is, even if they're not really involved with Debian at the moment, then maybe that's a good way to get them to make a contribution. Because again, it's not strictly vital. It's really a good thing if we can have some local coverage or some kind of international coverage just to show that Debian is having a conference and is doing useful things. Maybe there are more technical ways again to help remotely, things like helping design websites, helping with admin as an infrastructure for various servers that we have. I think I mentioned video team already. One task that will be coming up imminently, and is again is something that often gets left behind a bit, is the production of a final report for the conference. Basically, that's just a collection of articles about different aspects of the conference, plus some kind of budget information and other more numerical stuff about what's happened. So again, we're always looking for people who can volunteer to write 1 or 2 articles there, maybe on just Martin wants to say something? Well, that's fine. If we have the microphone.
Sorry. About the final report, there isn't really there are a couple of articles that have to be written, but what is also incredibly useful is if you feel super happy about a day and you just want to write a paragraph or 3 sentences about what you experienced on that day and how it really helped you contribute to Debian, or whether you forged friendships and whatever, write that and send it to us, or commit it directly. I mean, maybe it's not going to end up in the final report, maybe it's going to end up in another final report in the future year as a quote or in the sponsorship brochure, but materials like this coming from attendees is very, very helpful, and that applies to photos as well, which iGuys is taking care of. But some people also are doing photos, and sometimes they are just shots that are too good to pass up the opportunity.
So I mean, then coming just down the list, there's a lot of different jobs to do with talks. In the conference, in practical terms, I don't know exactly, I don't actually know how it's being coordinated this year. I don't know if Martin knows or someone else, about the kind of talk master stuff. Do you know it? Does anyone know what's happening? Video team?
Yeah, go on. So over the last few days, we've been short quite dramatically of people on the video team. Ideally, there wants to be somebody to look after each talk, let somebody know at the start how long they've got, warn people when they've got 10 minutes, 5 minutes to go, introduce the talks. This year, video team seem to be doing that to an extent. So please let yourself be known if you're just sitting in a conference and you can spend 5 minutes in a room with us at the start and at the end of the talk. volunteer just for that talk.
Yeah.
We could always do with the help.
Yeah, and that's, I mean,
the
you
gu-
can
the
just go
two
to
guys on
talks you
cameras-
wanted to go to anyway. So.
Yeah, the two guys on cameras literally didn't know they were on cameras until they walked into the room and just said, I can help, and we said, yeah. So thank you.
Then at a wider level of talk stuff, there's, even during the conference period, there's a need for kind of people who are checking about talk scheduling, which can mean scheduling new events, but it also includes, again, it's very useful if someone actually checks whether the people who are speakers have genuinely turned up to the conference and whether they are awake that particular day, for example. We have had some problems before where we had to try and drag speakers out of bed 10 minutes after their talk started, which is not really ideal. And again, in the period leading up to the conference, more than just now, but it's something you could volunteer for now and be involved with in future years. There's the need for people who look at the talk submissions we've got and do the kind of filtering and scheduling of the main program to say what do we actually want to include in the schedule for the next year's conference. And also there's the space to go out and actively encourage a few people where it seems there's a topic that seems to be particularly relevant in Debian at the time, and we can actually go out and reach out to someone to try and persuade them to give a talk on that, or again to get people who are high profile within Debian in particular key roles to actively encourage them to agree some kind of talk idea that would be good for everyone to have the time to listen to and to discuss. Again, in terms of filtering or ranking and so on, there's the need for people who would volunteer to help with allocating who actually is eligible for the different kinds of sponsorship and bursaries we give. Obviously for that it's good if you've been involved in Debian a few years already, so that you have some idea who people are, a lot of the information that you should be able to get by just searching for people, but obviously it's a lot quicker to do it if you have some idea who they are and does what they're saying about their plans for DebConf and so on make sense. Again, it's something that actually has some kind of power or influence, but it's not something that's necessarily attractive to everyone to spend the time to do. But clearly these are all jobs that we really need they need to happen to make the conference work well. Again, both in advance of the conference and during the conference, again, we need people who will do things like allocate the rooms in the accommodation and again, make sure who hasn't actually turned up. Is there some problem that means we need to move people around, this kind of thing. Again, often we'll get some attendees who need to cancel at the last moment and other people who turn up with 3 extra family members they hadn't expected to bring, and we need to find some solution of how all these things work. Each of these roles doesn't necessarily need to be time consuming, but it does become too much if you have a couple of people trying to do too many of these things at once. So for many of these jobs, the best is if there's really one person who can just take a particular role and just be the known contact for attendees for that area, and just again enjoy the conference as normal. But when there's an issue in that particular topic, they can deal with it calmly because they're not already being busy with 20 other jobs as well. And again, on technical things, we could do with more people to help with the administration of various the websites and so on to do with DebConf, and also for things to do with the DebConf email lists. In fact, for quite a lot of stuff to do with the websites and email lists, there's been an agreement since a couple of years ago that we would do a migration of these from the current debconf.org infrastructure onto more standard Debian infrastructure. But again, we need some people to actually take that and do the work there, which is, again, it's obviously easier if it's easier in a way if it's people who are already familiar with the relevant infrastructure, but it can also be a way for someone new to the project to get familiar with the infrastructure. Generally in DebConf, as in the rest of Debian, if you take any of these kind of jobs, of course it's you meet the other people, you can learn how things work in the area, learn some technical things, get some normally people find that if they start doing one thing, it's easy to expand into doing others later. I don't know. Again, some of the people here who are new faces, maybe they're still looking for something to do within Debian in general. I'm not sure. I don't really want to say a lot more for myself, but does some people have other points or questions?
Well, I was just going to add a little bit to what you just said, and specifically in regards of the future. I mean, we're at this conference right now, and it's, as you said, people who are already helping are probably like too stressed to actually be able to manage volunteers. So that is an important aspect to keep in mind, and that goes very well with the spirit of the conference itself, which we like to call an unconference every now and then. So it's really your conference. If you want to do something, just do it. And generally that works until somebody of us slaps you because you've clearly done something wrong. But you know, you have to do a lot of things wrong before that happens. So if you want to organize an event, do it. If you see someone carrying stuff, help. You know, that's a sort of way to get involved. But in terms of the future, we already know that there's DC-15 happening in Germany next year, and if you are interested in getting involved, then pop onto our channel, onto our mailing list, and just idle, have a look. Maybe there's something you can pick up. And then beyond DC-15, there's DC-16 and DC-17, and well, one of the greatest ways, I have to say, to get involved in DebConf is to become a volunteer by organizing a conference from the very start on. So if you are interested, or if you know, let's not say if you're interested, if you have this potential spark in your head right now that says, yeah, you know, I could probably do this, find some people in my town and find a venue and so on. I think you can. I think you can do it. It's a lot of work, but if you start early and you're committed to it, then you can do it. And at least for my part, I would be happy to chat with anyone who has these ideas, who wants to think about doing DebConf 15, 16, 18, 21, whatever. And if you have any questions or unclarities about what's involved and how to start and this and that, then find any one of us and talk to us, because this is a great time to form ideas, and at the end of the week you would even get to present your idea. That's it from me.
Yep. Does anyone else want to ask a question or say anything? Tell us what. Okay. Yeah.
I was just curious who I would. Hi, Kathy. Is it the video team that is doing the captions, the titling, subtitling?
There is a separate.
Published videos.
There's a different group of people, which Does anyone know if Tassia is pushing that, or someone else? Who's? Oh, sorry, I'm misremembering entirely.
I don't know, but if anyone is taking care.
Oh.
I don't know if anyone is taking care of that yet this year. I had no.
You did some subtitling before, didn't you, or not? Or no? Or am I just making that up?
Yeah.
So can you say something about what, I know it's not the question, but can you say something about the subtitling? How, because some people...
How do you do the job? We can find out together if you want. I just don't remember what we used, but it was like two years ago that I helped Francesca. Yep. But yeah, we can find out what the structure was, but I think I've not heard of anyone doing this job yet this year.
Anything else from people, or we just come to a close? I think we can all go back to our RSC then. Okay, thank you for coming. I hope some of you will now actually have heard something interesting that you would like to volunteer for in DebConf, and that we will get see some new people helping in different ways. I hope I haven't scared you all off. Thanks for coming anyway.
There was a wiki page. I can try to find it. There's a wiki page. No, she's not coming.
More the merrier. There's sign-up sheets on at the front. If there's any particular session that you specifically want to help out on, just go and sign yourself on the sheet, decide what you want to do. More importantly, even if you're coming into a talk, if you find that there's nobody stood by either of the two cameras or whatever, just grab one, or grab whoever's in the room and just say, yeah, I'm quite happy to do that.
We need just show the time to the speakers and give the microphone.
Yeah, so running around, that's always needed. So every talk's got 45 minutes, I think. So we've got a 10 minute, 5 minute, and take them off, drag them out the room, and or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter if it goes over for 5 minutes, but having that 15 minutes between talks gives people who have volunteered a chance to get to the talk that they want to attend next, and bits and pieces. So it helps.
Do you know where the batteries are?
No, I haven't seen any. I was about to come and ask you that question.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. So,
What's the law on the vote?
So our main bit here is DV switch, which is maintaining.
Hello.
So we've got 4 DVs in your right.
Because we were speaking just someone has to. That's all. Really, I thought you talked. So I think that I've been just